Hello my friends, my name is Forge and welcome to another Minecraft video. We're going to be looking at the new beta of 1.19.0.28 and preview 0.29. This new beta and preview includes mostly bug fixes, but it also includes some very important changes regarding the Warden, and they also introduced the new 5 music disc. If you guys want to read up on all the changes, then there will be a link to the changelog in the description. And for now, let's get right into the video. If you enjoyed this video, then consider subscribing as it helps out quite a bit and shows your support for the channel. Thank you. Now this week, the Warden and Sculk blocks, they've also seen a very big change this week. When the Warden is using the range attack, the vertical knockback, it will now respect directionally. And it also will now bypass shields, armor, and as a custom death message. It will deal 10 damage instead of 30 damage, and the cooldown has been reduced from 5 to 2 seconds. A lot of people will be quite upset about this. Without good armor, you're not going to be well protected. Without the ability of using a shield, you cannot block the range attack. Come on, Warden. Come on, Warden. So as you can see, we literally were not protected at all. The shield did not do a thing, and our armor did not protect us. Boy, I do not like the change at all. Now just to clarify, this only applies for the ranged attack. This does not apply for melee attacks. So the armor and shield, they will still protect you from the Warden when he is coming up to punch you. The Warden also now has a drop. So when a Warden dies, it will drop a Sculk Catalyst. And if you're wondering about the veins, when the Warden died, the Catalyst picked it up. But yep, the Warden will now drop a Sculk Catalyst when it ends up dying. The Warden now increases anger when distracted by projectiles. It will be 10 for non-frequent projectiles and 35 for frequent projectiles. The Warden will now react to non-arrow types projectiles, and the Warden can now correctly be distracted by non-arrow projectiles. So I can only assume if you were to throw like an item that was not an arrow, then the Warden would not get distracted by that. The Warden now gets angry at all mobs that bump into it. So this is something that's going to be really fun to mess around with. I'm sorry, Creeper, but you're going to have to be a test for today. And there's our Warden. So Creeper, I'm going to bump you into the Warden. Alright, Warden, do your job. Take care of Mr. Creeps here. Well, there he goes. We're going to go over some Sculk changes. The Sculk Catalyst and Shriekers, they now have the same blast resistance as on Java. They also restored some Sculk-related sounds that were mistakenly removed. The Sculk Shrieker shrieking sound is now categorized as a block sound. The Sculk Sensors activation and deactivation sounds are now categorized as block sounds. Sculk Sensors can now properly detect a player using a fishing rod, and if I use a fishing rod, then the sensor will now detect it. So it works when you reel it out and when you pull it in. The Sculk Shrieker no longer exhibits Z-fighting on any phases when held in hand or placed in an item frame. And pistons cannot push sensors, catalysts, or shriekers. Cracking animation no longer appears around tendrils while mining Sculk sensors. We're now going to go over some changes regarding Spectator Mode. Now do keep in mind, it is still in early development, and the people at Mojang, they did already state that they're not taking any bug reports. So if you have any bug reports, you're just going to be wasting your time going onto the bug tracker. They're going to be taking bug reports when this is further along. But originally, if you wanted to enter Spectator Mode, you had to type in Game Mode 6. Now this still works. You can now also type in Spectator and it will put you into Spectator Mode. But also on the side of the screen, it now says set on Game Mode to Spectator. And also the game mode has been updated to Spectator instead of saying a big long string of text. There is a new experimental toggle that you need to turn on if you want to use Spectator Mode, and it is called Spectator Mode. So if you go down to experiments, look for this, go ahead and turn it on, and then you'll be able to use Spectator Mode. I would also like to remind you all that if you switch to Spectator Mode and you're standing on solid ground, then you will not be able to go up and down at all. You need to make sure that you're flying in order for Spectator Mode to work properly. They also added the new Spooky Music Disc 5. In order to get this new disc, you need to look for some new fragments. We'll probably have to travel around here until you eventually find some. So as you can see, we opened up this chest and we got ourselves 2 fragments. But however, I won't be playing this new disc in today's video, but if you do want to listen to it as well as the other new tracks that are coming in 1.19, I will put a link in the description. Next up, we're going to go over some mangrove swamp changes. To begin with, the mangrove propagills, they can no longer be fertilized indefinitely. Now there is a big problem with propagills, and the ones that are hanging from the trees, you would be able to continue using up your bone meal even though they were fully grown. So like this is the fully grown propagill, and before, the bone meal would continue being used up, but nope, they have fixed that within today's beta. And then the mangrove trees, they will no longer grow if the area above them is obstructed. So as you can see, I've got myself a propagule, and right above the propagule, we're going to place a mud block. If I use bone meal on this, then it will still grow the tree. I think they mostly mean like the area above the tree. As you can see, there's like an entire mangrove tree up here, and if I try to bone meal this, then it is not growing whatsoever. Mangrove wood and log types, they now properly prevent leaf decay. They brought mangrove tree foliage into parity with Java. Now to be honest, I really don't know what the change means, because looking at the swamp, it looks pretty much the same. Maybe the trees are further spread out, like I'm just not entirely too sure. They merged mangrove underscore propagule underscore hanging into mangrove underscore propagule block and used a hanging block state instead. That change is mostly on the technical side, so you won't really notice anything in the game. He fixed an issue where mangrove trees were generating without logs in the branches. Oh yeah, I definitely remember this. They fixed a bug that caused most of the mangrove wood blocks to be unaffected by fire. Ooh, that's actually pretty nice. Fireproof mangrove wood. Non-mangrove saplings can grow. Non-mangrove saplings can now grow into full trees when bone mealed on mud. So that means that we can grow other type of saplings on the mud block, like oak saplings, spruce saplings, and so on and so forth. Mangrove leaves, they now drop leaf blocks when harvested by shears. Campfires and smokers, they can now be crafted out of all variants of mangrove wood. Our next few changes are involving frogs. Frogs no longer have trouble pathfinding on mud blocks, and now to fix this, until a proper fix can be implemented, they made it so mud blocks, they will sink into them slightly. So before, this would kind of work like soul sand, where you would like sink down a tiny bit. Now as we all know, when it comes to soul sand, but it seems like while trying to fix that bug, they kind of messed up soul sand, because soul sand does not sink you down anymore. Yep, entities, they will no longer sink on these blocks, at least until a proper fix is found. And next up, we have frog light changes. The frog light is now correctly dropped when destroyed by any tool. Frog light blocks now have the correct map color, and frog light blocks, they now have the correct breaking time. Then for frog spawn, the frog spawns, they no longer get broken by flowing water. This week, the Allay is also seeing a bit of a change. So if I place down an Allay, and I give him an emerald, I interact with an empty hand, then the emerald goes to your hand. But however, the change this week is if I interact with the same stack of that item, then it's now going to stack. So originally the items would not stack whatsoever, but now they have fixed that. The Allay also has seen a new throwing sound, so go ahead and take a listen. We're going to go over the gameplay fixes and changes. First off, mobs can no longer spawn on buttons again, so if you had any kind of button around the area, then mobs, they can spawn around that button. Amethyst clusters can no longer be placed on Sculk shriekers and other blocks with no top support, and can now be placed on blocks with bottom support as intended. I place shrieker down, we cannot place amethyst on top of it, but however, we can put it on the bottom of the shrieker. They fixed a bug where an undamaged tool such as a pickaxe, when name changed on an anvil, would fail to work correctly when used for the first time. The recipes for a minecart with chest, hopper, and TNT, they are now shapeless. So you'll now be able to put these wherever you want on the crafting grid, so it doesn't matter where you place them, as long as they're in the grid, then you'll be able to get yourself the outcome. They fix an issue where taking large fatal damage with the absorption effect on could cause a soft lock. Now I'm not entirely too sure what that change means, so if you know more about the stuff, then feel free to clarify. Next up is vanilla parity. Shulkers are now fire immune, so if I place the shulker in lava, it will no longer burn. Even if I ignite it on fire, the shulker will not be burned. To be honest, this actually looks pretty cool. But the weird thing is, when they're in lava, they teleport away. But when they're on fire, they don't teleport away? What is up with that? Definitely seems like a bug. And shulkers, they will now remain in an upright position when they're in vehicles, like a minecart or a boat. The shulker is sideways. And you might think that if I place on a boat or a minecart, then he would land inside the boat in that same position. But they actually made it so he's now upright. And then for touch controls, the player can now slide from movement directions to jump and not get interrupted when jump and sneak are swapped on, the classic touch controls. Graphical, they fixed the sun direction not updating in RTX worlds. For the trader llamas, they can now be bred after being fed A-bells. Now to be honest, I had no idea that you could breed trader llamas, but I guess you learn something new every day. So let's interact with this llama. So let's go ahead and breed these two llamas together. And now we got ourselves an adorable baby llama. Oh, they look so cute, that carpet. But the question is, where does the carpet come from? Trader llamas, they are no longer persistent after being unleashed from the wandering trader. Basically, after you would kill the wandering trader, the llamas would not despawn at all. They would just be persistent. they would stay in one place for a long time. They fixed a crash which could occur when trading with a villager that last traded with a disconnected player. Let's say one of your friends was trading with a villager, then they disconnected. Well, if you were to go up and trade with that same villager, then the game would just crash. So, not very good at all. And they fixed a crash that would occasionally occur in villages on iOS. Moving on to user interface. They fixed the bug where items can be dropped by clicking in the dark gray area of the left side of the player inventory using a furnace, blast furnace, smoker, enchant table, grindstone, brewing stand, anvil, beacon, or smithing table. Now, as we all know, when you're inside the player inventory, you'll be able to click on the gray side of the screen and you can drop items. And the same thing would also apply if you're using other user interfaces. But now if you were to use a smoker, you can no longer drop items on the side of the screen. Featured servers message text is no longer censored. And finally, we have commands. They added the replace into the overload to the /loot command. And that's going to be it for everything in this week's beta and preview for Minecraft Bedrock 1.19. But down below in the comments, I would love to hear what you think about this. What do you think of the addition of Music Disc 5? If you guys enjoyed today's video, then please consider leaving a like, subscribe if you're around here, and I will catch you next time. Goodbye.